And so our first question is, what is an empathy circle? How do you describe it? When we, explain it to people, we need that really simple explanation. So maybe we can go around and just share how you sort of define it, and maybe talk a little bit about it and get a reflection on it. So whoever would like to start can just jump in and select who you like to speak to. Maybe Varsha, since you've been a little
would you
quiet.
open the...
What?
Edwin, would you want to open the
thing?
This thing? Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I was just typing, but I can say.
Okay, I'll type while you talk if you want to speak to someone.
Yay. I will speak to Celia.
Okay.
Yes. In empathy circle, everybody comes together, and it's a turn taking. In turn taking, one person gets to speak and also choose who the speaker wants to speak to. Like the speaker gets to choose the listener, and whatever the speaker says, the listener paraphrases briefly, and the speaker feels understood.
Okay. Yeah.
And it is also most of the time interpreted well, which I struggle in my day-to-day life. This is the only place where I feel people interpret correctly what I speak and what's in my mind. Yeah, so that's the advantage. But when I go outside, I feel the interpretation is going somewhere else.
Yeah. So you see the benefits of a circle, or what the circle is that people come together and there is a speaker and there are listeners, and the listener paraphrases what the speaker has said, and in comparison to normal talking with people, you feel you really can be heard, and that's your own experience as well, that the interpretation is way more correct than
yes,
when you talk outside of an empathy circle. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm wondering, how can this be the culture, universal culture?
Right.
So
still there's wondering, how can this become a culture? How can this become a habit or something that people do?
Yes, and how can people get this, understand this? And I see that most of the time people, like, I don't know what to say. How do people deal with this when they feel misunderstood, and how to transfer the skill, how to teach the skill of listening, how to teach this listening skills to everybody, and how to foster this.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's really simple, but why is this simple thing so hard?
Right. Yeah. You wonder how this simple system can still be promoted outdoor, and how would people experience it and try it, and how can it even be taught or be presented to people?
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm slowly discovering from that TET book what happens.
Yeah.
I just finished the 3rd chapter, and it's like, so I got to the pulse of it. I really got into the core of this listening thing because the context was student, and how do students feel heard. And this is the time I've really got it, what's happening, because the thing is, in the empathy circle, because I feel heard. So coming outside of this,
right,
I don't get like what goes inside student or people when they not feel heard. So I got so many examples and so many situations of real life. So I really get, I really get it, what it means.
Yeah. So the combination of the empathy circle with the TET, which is Teacher Effectiveness Training book that I suggested to you, gives you the insight like how it will work, and even the people that do not have all these skills, they can enter, and because of the empathy circle, you recognize, I think, what you read there, what is meant.
Yeah, yes, and the main thing that helped me understand the difference is, like in Listening Well book, there are roadblocks, and in this book also there is roadblocks. But the difference between, like, the roadblocks are same what we discuss in Listening Well, but the difference is in Listening Well book, we ask questions. There is an activity where we ask blocking questions.
Yeah.
But in this book, we ask the blocking questions, and it is also mentioned in TET what the person feels when we speak those blocking questions.
Yes.
In Listening Well, it is not explained what happens inside a person when a person experiences those blocking questions and all that, you know.
Yeah, that's another difference, that in Listening Well, it is not explained what the person really experiences and goes through, while in Teacher Effectiveness Training, yes, it's elaborated.
Yeah. So that's how it helped me.
Yeah.
Really get it, what is listening.
Yes, yes, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even often. Oh no. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was listening.
Yeah, that's it. I feel.
Thank you. All right. Bob, do you want to listen to me?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I have said here, an empathy circle is a circle of people in which they can take turns to talk and reflect each other's words and feelings, with the aim to practice giving and receiving empathy. So I tried to word it as compact as possible, but it does not say, take turns. They take turns to talk. Would that be clear, you know? And how do you do that then? Take turns. Is there one person who says, okay, it's now your turn, or I should maybe add to it, like you choose to whom you speak, something like that, like really even more basic. Yeah.
Okay, so you tried to be as simple as you could, but in reviewing it, you feel that maybe you've left out some important information. And,
the how-to.
Yeah, and the how-to, and so you're kind of struggling with the cost-benefit analysis of brevity, thoroughness.
Yes.
I've troubled with all my life.
That is fabulous.
Please go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, no, that was it. Do we go to the next question also, Edwin, or do we do one question each time?
So do you feel heard yet?
Oh, yes, I felt heard by you, definitely.
One at a time, I think, huh? Just to stay focused.
One at a time. So I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I said that an empathy circle is a process whereby each person listens deeply to and is deeply heard by others in the circle. Attention should be paid to mutuality so that everybody feels heard. And as I listened to you and also Varsha, you know, it's like an aspirational description. But it's not it's not really a how-to. You couldn't pick that. But it, I think it, Lou brought up the idea when we were designing the rubric. And I really like that. It's another part, you know, we were talking about if you took an empathy class, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even say who I was talking to, Edwin.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing there is that your description is more aspirational, kind of what it is that you're aspiring to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you're going on, you're talking about Lou and kind of the rubric, and you're kind of in the middle of explaining.
Right, just the idea of a mutuality. I like that word because in one word, it encapsulates sort of like this give and take between people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so the kind of that give and take and the mutuality aspect of it is important. It's just not one way, but that there's a mutual aspect that you're trying to capture and express.
Yeah. For me, it's very helpful as I'm going in, and like as Buddhists say, we have wild mind, and then you go off and there's a tangent or you something, and then I always like feel mutuality. Okay, so is this person feeling heard, or that check-in? That's a good thing to just, constantly check in with myself. So I find it beneficial.
Mm-hmm. So there's that aspect of just kind of being in your monkey mind, or what is it?
I didn't say monkey mind. Right?
No. What was it? Versus aspirate versus mutual.
Buddhist wild mind.
Oh, okay? Wild mind. I'm thinking.
All monkeys were harmed in the making of this video.
So the wild mind, so you're kind of making the difference between the wild mind, which is maybe like sort of self-interested, versus an awareness of mutuality. Is that?
You don't want to know.
Oh, you don't want to know.
Yeah. So it could be self-interest. It could be, ooh, shiny. It's amazing. So
it's kind of like, instead of just following wherever the mind goes, that you're kind of holding an awareness of the mutuality of the relationship.
Right, and that's an important focus, and I really have feel that that's benefited.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there more, or is that?
No, that's it.
Okay. Then I'll speak to Varsha. So I'll start off with, I've been working on these, this is like just what is an empathy circle? What's sort of like the elevator pitch? How do we, when we're in an elevator and we just meet somebody, we want to say, hey, this is what an empathy circle is, how do we explain it in a very simple, compelling way? So that's kind of what the intention of it is. It's not so much about the how-to, because that's a whole different sort of explanation. It's just, how do we explain what it is? So I'll just start off with that first comment.
So you have been working towards your elevator pitch to explain somebody what is empathy circle, so that people get motivated to be a part of empathy circle.
Yeah, and the second part is I've been coming up with all kinds of different, comments to the point where I can't even stick any straight anymore. I've been kind of rewriting to the point where I just feel totally, it's just like feel kind of like stuck in some way. So, you know what I mean? You kind of focus on something so much, you get kind of like bit stuck. So I feel a little bit of that stuckness in my brain because I've been just working on this too much. I need to be with the whales.
So you have been writing and thinking about your elevator pitch, and now you're in a situation that you're kind of lost and you're not able to filter, or probably you're not able to filter. You're still in this.
Yeah, I get kind of like stuck, from just working too hard at thinking too much, trying too many different wordsmithing, and usually, getting a little space kind of helps for that. So
you feel stuck and you need space?
Yeah. So with that, I just wanted, that's my preface. And so I had an empathy circle as a structured dialogue process for practicing empathy in a small group setting. So for me, I always kind of wanted to get that structured process out there, that there is a structure to this, because a lot of people complain about the structure. Because, for example, you complained a little bit, I don't want this structure, I just want to talk freely, whatever comes up to my mind. And then, you know, a lot of other people say, oh, this is too structured. So I thought by mentioning that it's structured up front, that would kind of maybe help address that, say this is a structured process, and that's, you know, and it has this intention to, you know, that structure supports this intention.
So because you have been experiencing that people are finding it difficult to stay in structured way like me. so you have been loud enough from the first day, from the first moment, for people to recognize that this is going to be structured and you are going to feel uncomfortable.
Damn it, this is a structured process and get used to it.
Yeah.
So putting it into the description just to kind of address that issue. Yeah. So
yeah, you want to be upfront and be clear to people and let people know what to expect, and please don't crib after that.
Yeah, so that's very good. Thank you. That's fine. That helped me kind of loosen up a little bit. Okay. So we have the next one, why participate. So your turn. My
turn? Okay. I'll speak to you.
Okay.
Yeah. This, although I find it difficult to be in a structure, and for your information, I'm not a structured person because I'm an artist. I find it difficult to stay in the structure as a personality type. However, this really helped me develop the skill of listening and figuring out what actually is listening is. Yeah, although I've been participating in empathy circle, I had still so many questions around listening. What is listening? What is listening? So now I kind of got deeper into it to understand what is listening. Although it seems easy, it's not easy. So it helped me get it, what is listening. So empathy circle is helpful to develop the skill of listening and transfer the skills to others, because when